You're listening to Beyond Damascus, the show where encounter meets mission. Beyond Damascus is aired on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network and across Ohio on St. Gabriel Radio. Jack, do we have a question? Sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're totally
I'm not actually
sorry to interrupt you. You interrupted us.
you.
With your beautiful beard.
All right. Question of the week is, how do I manage my call to mission while balancing the other things in my life, i.e. family, friends, job, and my personal life?
How do I manage
my call to mission while balancing the other things in my life?
Oh, I like that.
All right,
I
I'll
like
make
that
it first.
question. Oh, Dan, come on. Both
All
at
right.
the same time.
First of all, I really like that this person believes that they have a call to mission outside of just the things that they do. So I think a lot of times I hear in the Catholic Church all the time kind of like, well, marriage is my primary mission or my primary vocation, which it kind of equates to I don't have to do any other mission work because
Mowing my lawn is my primary.
yeah.
Primary implies only.
Yeah. And I think there is sometimes an unhealthy overemphasis that primary means only. And so it gives us an excuse to forget about others. And so this whole idea of how do I manage a call to mission in the midst of everything else that I have going on in my life? I have a phrase I like to use. I stole it from my wife. It's do what you do and do it for Jesus. And so really everything you're doing is your call to mission, and your call to mission is meant to be infused into the very life fabric of all the different things you do. And so, so what I don't know was mentioned there, like family, personal life, work, all these different things. What is your mission at your home? What is your mission at work? What is your mission in your personal life? I think they said friends as well. What's your mission with your friends? And then to even be do what you do and do it for Jesus. So when you're at work for Jesus. When you're with your friends, with your friends for Jesus. But I think being very intentional of saying, okay, how can me and my friendships, or how can my personal life desires really fulfill a call to mission? I was talking to someone the other day, and they were talking about how it was at church, and a lot of the church guys have formed a baseball league. And I was like, oh, that's cool. You have a team. And they're like, no, we have an entire league. And so it's like the church people all formed their own baseball teams or softball teams. So the church people were all playing against the church people. But softball is one of those things that you could actually go and do with other people to be on mission, to evangelize. So if you want to play softball, instead of starting your own little Catholic league bubble, right? Maybe actually just go out in pairs and by two, grab a friend and join a normal softball league, and then be a light in the darkness there. So your personal life can be your mission field, right? That do what you do and do it for Jesus. If you have a hunger to play softball, play softball, just do it for Christ, make that a mission field for you. But I don't think a lot of times what we do is we remove ourselves from mission territory, and we only do things intra-church, right? Intra-ecclesial, where we're okay, well, I have a desire to serve. So I'm going to join the Knights of Columbus and serve through the Knights of Columbus. But maybe there's other ways to serve that are extra ecclesial missionary opportunities as well. So whatever these stirrings in your heart, just ask, okay, what am I called to do, or what am I doing? How can I do that for Jesus? All things. And then the things that I am doing, can I be more intentional to make those more missionary by their very nature, as opposed to kind of retreating from the world?
I know it's a big passion of yours, Dan. Are there any areas in your life where you've seen testimony of actually living that?
Yeah, someone on our missionary here that I think does it better than anyone is Emily Knuth. Emily,
shout out Emily.
She's in charge of our missionary recruiting, but she's just she has a lot of personal passions, and she utilizes her personal passions for the sake of evangelization all the time. And she's very confident, I'm going to go and join a soccer league by myself, or I'm going to go and do prison ministry by myself. Even though we have a primary mission here, she has all these small missions on the side. And I think she is getting a lot of life from that, right? Because she's moving in the areas of passions that she has. And yes, she's being intentional enough to make sure those are authentically missionary endeavors.
Way to go, Emily.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, Emily's amazing. I also think there's something to that just is right, because we abdicate our primary responsibility as the laity if we abdicate mission outside of the walls of the church. Because the call of the clergy is primarily inside the walls of the church, right? The priests and religious, they're praying for and ministering to the people within the walls of the church. That doesn't mean that we're not supposed to at all. So hear what I'm saying, not what I'm not. But the laity have a unique call to the world. It's go out there and bring them here, right? Like it's the ministry ad gentes, right? To the people, to the nations. And I think I'm just inspired by what you're saying there, because I think I've found it curious that like a lot of times we'll talk about duties of state, but we don't talk about just the general duties of church. So like duties of state, we know like I'm a married man, so I have responsibility to my wife and to my children and to my home and to steward all those things well. But the duties of the church is like the corporal works of mercy, the spiritual works of mercy. Like we're supposed to be like a light in the darkness. We're supposed to be the salt of the earth. Like when you look at the duties of church, like it's impossible for me to fulfill all of those by simply attending to my duties of state, if that makes sense. So it shows that like there's something here that's needed. So I want to affirm the person asking the question too.
Well, and I think sometimes we may limit ourselves to what mission looks like, like, okay, mission means serving in my parish, or mission looks like going out and evangelizing.
I was going to say glamorizing it. It means giving a talk on a stage.
Yeah.
It's like, that's not
like, and with your question, I was thinking to myself, okay, like what are some examples of how I do this? So like, I really value small business owners and encouraging small business owners. And I value, businesses owned by females. And I think, or started up like female entrepreneurs. And it's funny because like I was mentioning this to my wife the other day, and she's like, you've never ever voiced that you care about women owned businesses, and like, so I think sometimes we have personal passions that like, we don't even like I didn't recognize. I mentioned it to her, and I was like, actually, I really care about. Yeah. And like, I'm intentional during the day when I'm working at a coffee shop or going to different stores to go to the small businesses, to get to know the business owner, right? Like to hear their story, to encourage them and stuff. And so like, it's just a small passion that then has become randomly on Wednesdays and Thursdays when I don't work in an office. I travel around and check out different coffee shops, learn about different people, and I get to encourage them and share the gospel.
Meet different women.
Meet all these different women who own businesses.
No, I think there's I think that's a decent bridge for me. Actually, I'll just jump in. So I think 2 cents in the jar.
Cut me off. I was going to go.
Were you going to go? Yeah. Well, I think the reason I just think that what you're sharing, Dan's actually changing the angle of like what I want to say and answering the question, because I think there's a power in regularity. Okay. So I'm going to start here. Just that there's a power in being in the same place over and over and over again. There's something about evangelization that does require more than one touch point. There's something about it that in its fullness requires follow-up. And so when I'm hearing this question, I don't think it's a matter of finding balance with a call to mission with my family work, similar to what you were saying, Dan, but maybe from a different lens. Like that is your mission. Like those are the things that you're supposed to have mission in. Like I think sometimes we're like, how much more can I add so I feel missionary? It's like, no, how much more can I do in the spaces I already am that's of a missionary heart? Like when I'm at work, how can I give a reason for the hope that's within me? How can I suffer with someone who's going through something hard, or pray for someone who is in a situation that's outside of what they feel like they can control? I think there's tons of mission opportunity that's right in front of us that we don't have to be like, well, in order for me to get my 40 hours of work in and to be there every night with my kids there's no room for mission. It's like, well, no. Because you're throwing out all the hours that mission can fit into. Like, how can I spend intentional time with my kids going out on mission with them? What would that even look like? Well, maybe it is going to a business and getting to know a business owner. Like, hey, every Saturday morning, me and my kids walk from where we're at down to the local bakery, and we know the guy who owns the business. And that guy has developed a relationship with us, and he knows that we go to mass on Sunday, and he's begun asking questions about that. So back to that original point, there's a power in regularity. So if you're someone that's struggling to figure out how mission fits into your busy life, instead, like, have a paradigm shift where you look at your life and you say, what mission opportunities in what I'm already doing am I missing? Like exactly Wednesdays and Thursdays, if you're not working in an office and you're somewhere, what if you went to that same somewhere every day for the next month?
Yeah.
Like, you're going to get to know the people that work there, right? Like, or what if you fill in the blank? So I just think when I'm hearing this, I'm thinking, think of the things you do regularly in your life and think about how you can bring a heart of mission into them. And then you can get rid of the balancing question and instead find that the solution, I think you said it well, Dan, but just to put it again, is integration. It's, I am a missionary father. I am a missionary business owner. I am a missionary attorney. I am a missionary, whatever. Like you said it is do what you do and do it for Jesus. I think I'm saying in a like in a definitive way, and in doing what you do for Jesus, be a missionary where you're at. Like you can't fulfill the call that you have in the church.
I know we've used your beautiful bride is an example in this a number of times. But
yeah, Nina's amazing at this.
I mean, Nina especially, but I think of there's a handful of people who are kind of closely connected to our community who also serve in healthcare, and to see the way that they have truly meaningfully embraced mission in that context is just awesome.
It is, and it's inspiring. Like it allows for us that are doing ministry that a lot of times, some of what we're doing is mission, like outside the church, but a lot of times it's like encouraging the church that like, hey, mission is what we're all doing. And then when you actually see like, oh wow, that's really inspiring.
Well, I think it's important too, because I think sometimes there's a perception like, oh, well, because these guys work full time for Damascus, then like their missionary endeavors just with Damascus. But it's really my job, day-to-day job, a lot of it, if I'm not out preaching and teaching, a lot of it's administration, meetings, like leadership,
strategy.
And so, it's not missionary work. And so it is a matter of like, we all are struggling. It's not just people with full-time ministry and then full-time secular jobs are somehow separate. We're all struggling. How do we get mission and incorporate into every aspect of our life? So it is that everything I'm doing, I have an eye with the Holy Spirit ready to go. And I think it's in the same way that St. Paul says, pray without ceasing. You know, we would also often teach like, you can't pray at all times if you don't pray at specific times. And so you can't be on mission at all times if you're not on mission at specific times. So I think having those specific times where I'm like, okay, I'm going to do outreach right now. I'm going to learn how to do outreach. I'm going to grow in outreach. Or I have a mission that I have within my parish, or mission that I have in my community. I'm going to give a
testimony to this person when I go in this day. Yeah, whatever that.
Yeah. So having the habit of scheduled mission time, which is valuable, and that should be a part of a lay person's life. And then that is what conditions you to be able to live mission at all times.
Yeah, that's good.
Let me jump on just a little additional
thumb
clarifying.
Flip. Come on.
Oh, I wanted
this totally over the entire
one
table.
was short, one was over. The next two will be in.
Okay. How balance is the word I want to zoom in on, because I think a lot of times when we talk about balance, maybe the perception is that how do I keep these things in how do I spend a proper amount of time on each of these things, right? How do I make sure I'm not spending too much time on one thing when my priority should be elsewhere? And I would say that my advice I would give for achieving balance in mission is to we need to take mission out of the realm of this is like my private and personal passion that I want to see influence the world, into this is something that I need to articulate and plan for and to communicate to the people that I love and to bring their buy-in. I'm sure you, well, I guess Brad, maybe with Nina, but certainly Dan with your kids. I had a situation a number of years ago where one of my girls was sad that Dad was leaving to go and speak at some conference, and she's like, "Why do you always leave? Can't you stay here and be with me?" And I just heard like all of the cliche experiences of absent fathers going through my mind, and I was like, I don't want to live my mission in such a way that it actually predisposes my kids to be opposed to the church, right? Mm-hmm. To be opposed to the Lord. And the solution that I had wasn't, okay, I need to stop going on trips, right? Mm-hmm. The solution was I need to communicate clearly with my kids that when I'm on mission, they're on mission, or that they can support in blessing the church by letting their dad go to this thing. Obviously there's extremes we need to avoid,
or you can invite them into it, which you do excellently too. Yeah.
So for Monica and I specifically, and this is advice I give to every single couple that I meet with in the process of formation for marriage, early on in our dating relationship, early in our marriage, we established meaningful and intentional conversation around what is the mission that I feel called to, and built our marriage in such a way that we focus on actually prioritizing the fulfillment of that person's mission in their life. Mm-hmm. So, Monica's particular mission that she feels called to is never going to be something that I see as competition with our marriage. Why? Because I know it's a passion and a call on her life. And I know that in order to support and to love her, I need to make room for it. I need to make space for it. And when we operate in that way, whether it be with friends or family or, our children, our spouse, I think that is where all of a sudden that idea of balance doesn't need to become a thing that I have to fight for. But, you know, Monica's my biggest cheerleader in going to do these things. My kids celebrate and pray for me and intercede for me and send me out when I'm on mission outside of my work.
Yeah, it's a team effort. Mm-hmm.
So I think I'll boil that down to, you've got to communicate it. You've got to articulate it clearly to the people you care most about, so that you can invite them in, so that it's not just a me thing.
Yep. That's
I
awesome.
like that a lot. Yeah. I wonder, like, yeah, it seems, so when you were saying that, Aaron, what was coming to my mind is that sounds so easy, but there's so, like, it's so funny how that just rarely happens. It was similar to like early in having Eliza, a priest friend of mine was like, hey, have you been blessing your daughter? And I was just like, well, yeah, like affirming and honoring. He's like, yeah, but like, just like blessing in a very intentional way. And I was like, no. And he like gave me like this very simple thing, but it's hard for me to implement. And I don't, it's been funny to kind of like just walk that, like, first of all, like, what does that mean? But when I hear that, like, similar to how I heard that priest say that to me, when you're saying that, it sounds simple, but like, have you had any like roadblocks, or what makes that difficult to invite?
I think those things are tied, actually.
Yeah.
There is a sense that we carry as humans. I think it's built into us in the way that we're raised, that my prayer life is private and it has to be kept private and sensitive, right? That I can't, it was most certainly after the conclusion of college was the first time that I was actually invited to share about my prayer life with my friends, right? Yeah. Or I guess outside of Catholic Youth Summer Camp, right? That being invited into a missional environment was the very first time growing up through years of Catholic education that I was even introduced to the idea that, like, you should talk about prayer.
What God is saying.
And you know, there's like that false taboo, I think, is present even in Catholic circles. Yeah. To the point where it's prevalent in marriages as well. Yeah. That for sure. I don't want to talk about my prayer experience with my wife. I don't want to talk about my experience on retreat. I
don't want to pray regularly with
How
her.
was the men's retreat? It was
good. Yeah. Right. No, that's really good. Okay. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense to me. We have this built-in disposition of like, that's internal, so it should be private, whereas it's not meant to really be either.
What's that phrase you always say, Aaron? It's something about like when you start doing something with intentionality, you have a key phrase.
What you've done by intuition.
When you do with intention what you've done by intuition, you achieve acceleration. We were talking about funny quotes at the beginning of the show. I did not make that up.
So say, you did. All right, say it again.
When you begin to do with intention what you've done by intuition, that's when you achieve acceleration.
And I think a lot of this is like, okay, maybe it's not that you've been doing it with intuition. Maybe you just haven't been doing it with intention, right? But you've been going to work. You have been going to like living your family. You've been serving at the church. Like there's all, but not like, what's the intentionality that you can wrap around it all? Yeah. It's actually funny. My dad, he moved down to South Carolina a few years ago. And I was like convinced, like I was really sad when he said he was moving. I was like, man, this is like really going to put distance between my relationship with my dad. Like I'm really disappointed. Yeah. He's moving 10 hours away. And it's funny. I've had a better relationship with him these last 2 years than I did in the years before him leaving, because now when we spend time together, we're way more intentional and like we're focused on like making sure we have time and we're having conversation. And I think sometimes because we're in proximity, there was relationality and there was a perception of relationality,
but not intentionality.
And so it's amazing the distance actually grew more intentionality, which grew the relationship. And I think the same thing can happen with all these different things. Maybe the only thing you're lacking is that to be a better missionary is better intentionality and planning on what is God asking you to do in these arenas of your life.
Yeah. So Dan, don't just go hang out with the ladies at the coffee shop. You need to.
Yeah. The ladies at the coffee shop.
No, but
drinking pumpkin spice lattes.
I love that mission. First of all,
me too.
So one expression of that could be, I'm going to invite my kids along with me.
Yep.
I think a better expression could be, I'm going to speak to my kids about why this is valuable.
Yep.
And invite them to have passion for it.
Yep. Sure. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Well,
exactly.
I also see there's a link here also just between we do things intentionally that we see as either necessary or desirable, right? And I don't think that we've done super well in the church to to say how necessary mission is. So I'm just saying for who's not asking this question. So if you're listening today and you're like, hey, I'm interested in this episode, but I didn't ask this question and I'm still wrestling. Like we're called, like the end of the Christian life is actually not internal. Like the end of the Christian life is external. Like the end of the Christian life is not the fulfillment of a Superman in Brad. The end of the Christian life is Brad poured out completely. And like, I think we've just missed that for some reason. We've hyper focused on the universal call to holiness, like continue to build yourself up, get holier, get out of sin patterns, become a virtuous person, have good habits. Like, and I don't disagree with any of that, but none of that's the end. All of that is unto me being able to pour myself out completely as the son that I was made to be. And if we don't have the end as pouring out and we have the end as building up, we're never going to get the mission call right. And so like, when I'm hearing this, it's like, yeah, like a lot of the reasons that some of you listening and even me in my life, when I think about like before really getting into a rhythm with the Lord, like the reason I wasn't putting intentionality into mission is because it was never told to me to be necessary. And it wasn't something that I felt super desirable. But now, like, as I understand Jesus more and more, and I understand what the church has stood on and the saints that have gone before us, like all that's been missionary activity, all that's been life poured out. And so I know that's like an aside, but just when you guys were on that back and forth, I'm like, why are we missing intentionality? Well, if we don't think it's necessary, we're never going to be intentional about it. Like if I didn't think a date night was necessary with my wife, I would never be intentional to plan it. Or, I don't know if that's the best analogy.
Yeah. I have a friend who told me that at the end of his prayer time every day, he pulls out his calendar and looks at his schedule for the day and just thinks through like what he has to do during the day. And when he told me that, I was like, that's kind of dumb. That's not part of your prayer time, dude. And I started doing it, and it was actually like super helpful because it does bring intentionality of like, oh, okay. And sometimes it's just thinking practically like, oh, okay, I need to make sure this happens. I need to text this person and get this done. But when you do it at the end of your prayer day, you're also asking yourself, how can I be intentional on these things?
Of course.
To bring the Lord into these things. And then in what areas is there space for the Lord and what areas is there not? That, like, to your point, Aaron, like, okay, if I'm with my kids during this time, how am I going to be intentional? And I think we can probably all do that better.
Yeah.
Like 100%.
Well, if I can speak just an honoring statement towards Aaron, we were on a conference together.
No, you
this
can't.
was probably a year ago.
No,
well, I just don't want it to be like, this isn't staged. And I think, but I really do want it to be honoring because it was like maybe a year ago we were at a conference and I was there with Aaron. We were just participating and we had a number of our other just coworkers here at Damascus with us. And we had a night where we were just like by the pool chatting about the things at the conference. Like it was in a really lovely part of the country. And when we were there were a bunch of like high school and young college students just kind of like running around and interacting with us. And it was funny because I felt a kind of my natural tilt sometimes, which is just to relate and be seen as cool by those people and then just kind of move on. And Aaron, when we got back, made the statement of just like, I think I'm going to go back out and share with them like what we're doing here. And I remember at first having the pull of like, oh, okay, try hard. But then I was like, but I mean that in like a sincere way. Like it was like a defense I had. And then, but once that defense, like once I was able to just sit for a moment in that and not react out of it, I was like, wait, no, like I love what he's doing. And when he came back, we had an amazing conversation and Aaron mentioned something that I take into my days now, which was just like, yeah, Brad, I guess at the end of the day, the question that we have to ask is not a matter of like how we operated, but did we move the needle forward in what we were doing? Like for that person in the Lord or for that situation and the kingdom of God, or like you can extrapolate that into a variety of things, but that's so helpful. It's like when you go to work, like wherever that needle's at, like when you leave work that day, the people that you interacted with did it move the needle towards the Lord? Like that's a really reasonable question to ask. Or if you do it at the beginning of your day, at the end of your prayer time, like you're saying, Dan, like how in that thing can I just move the needle a little bit? Like, oh, the world would be like if we just took. I mean, that's like it's such a small thing, but I thought it was huge, and I appreciated that conversation because it was one of conflict, but it came to like I thought really amazing resolution, and I offer that to anyone.
What was the resolution? Arm wrestling, fist fight?
Well, it was the statement that
if
we just move the needle forward, that's probably the right answer.
No, I think it's almost like you need intentionality and spontaneity, right? Like, so there has to be the intentionality of, okay, I'm thinking through my day. I'm thinking through what I do. And then there's my life is interruptible as well. So that when an opportunity comes, boom, I'm ready to respond.
Yep. That's really good.
Guys, this has been good. I wonder, Brad, do you have any takeaway for us for a mission of the week?
I do. Yeah, I'm excited for this. So for those of you who are listening, if you're listening for the first time, we give you a mission of the week. And it's so that we can take what we're talking about and actually do something about it. And what I want to encourage you to do is just, if you're anything like me, you might have the tendency to want to do this in every aspect of your life starting now. But a lot of times that doesn't work. So what I want you to do is take one aspect of your life. So if it's your work life, if it's your life with your family, if it's your life as a student, like wherever you're at in life, I just want you to take one aspect of that. So maybe it's the classroom, maybe it's the work environment, maybe it's within the home. And I want you to ask just a simple question in your personal prayer, which is, how today can I be on mission in such a way where it moves the needle forward in this aspect of my life? And just do the exact same arena for a week and see the momentum that's gained there. So if it's the work environment, at the beginning of your day, take a short time of prayer. If you're not already taking prayer, or at the end of your prayer, just be like, Lord, at work today, how can I move the needle forward? And if nothing comes, just say, Lord, help me to be an instrument that does do that. And then go into work and try that. And then reflect on it the next day in prayer and see how you can do it the next day. Do that for a week. And I think there will be momentum happening.
I bet you'll move the needle forward.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Great
The
job.
callback. That's good. That's a good comedian.
All right. Well, hey, thank you all for joining us this week for Beyond Damascus, the show where encounter meets mission. We want to be a show that is on mission and that transforms the world. If you've seen, if you've been inspired maybe by this episode, please share it with somebody who you think could grow through this message. And also, if you have questions that you'd like to have answered on the show, please leave a comment, or you can email Jack Parker at beyond@damascus.net. All right. Thanks for joining us this week. We'll see you again next time. And remember, as always,
mission makes sense.
You're listening to Beyond Damascus, the show where encounter meets mission. Beyond Damascus is aired on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network and across Ohio on St. Gabriel Radio. You can listen to the whole version of today's episode on www.ewtn.com/radio/podcasts, or check us out on YouTube or your favorite podcast app. We will be right back after a short commercial break.
This is Jim Pinto, Director of EWTN Media Missionaries. EWTN's mission is to spread the eternal word and to teach others that Jesus Christ is the way, the truth, and the life. You can help EWTN share the good news by becoming a media missionary. Visit EWTNmissionaries.com today and join us in sharing the eternal word with the world.
The most original and exclusive Catholic content is on EWTN Radio.
Human beings are God's greatest masterpiece. Every person is made in the image and likeness of God. But every saint, that is, every person who accepts God's invitation, his upward call to make them holy. And so every story presents us with a unique masterpiece that God is writing.
The Journey Home, Monday night, 8 Eastern, on EWTN Radio and television.
This is Father Dwight Longenecker. Catholic Radio helps to spread the gospel of Jesus Christ around the world in the fullness of the Catholic faith. With sound teaching, orthodox theology, reverent worship, EWTN is doing the very best work we can to spread the fullness of the faith in the Catholic Church throughout the whole world.
The world needs EWTN Catholic Radio, now more than ever.
When we pray, we should talk to God. It sounds simple. It's not always that simple. It's just like making any conversation, though. So sometimes we need prayer starters, things that'll give us a boost and get the conversation going. The formal prayers we have in the church, like the Our Father, the Hail Mary, the Glory Be, even the Creed, all of these things are ways that we can begin to talk to God. God doesn't get tired of hearing us say the standard prayers of the church. We can begin there.
Welcome back to Beyond Damascus, the show where encounter meets mission. Beyond Damascus is aired on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network and across Ohio on St. Gabriel Radio.
How do I approach learning from our non-Catholic brother and sisters?
Okay, yeah.
Without letting that influence me away from the Catholic Church teaching.
I actually really like this question.
All right, then go first, Brad.
Let me go first. Okay, sweet. I will go first. Let me make it succinct. So, I listen to Bishop Barron a lot because I think he has a lot of amazing things to say to the church in our generation. And one of his mentors was Cardinal George when he was in Chicago, and he quotes Cardinal George pretty often. And when he does, he often uses this quote. And I might be paraphrasing, but it's something like this. It's
I hope you don't have this memorized.
It's the Catholic Church has all of the gifts that God desires for his people, but that doesn't mean that we in all seasons use all of those gifts as well as we should. And I've loved that quote because it gives me a disposition of charity to all of my Christian brothers and sisters. Because what I can hold at the same time is that there is this beautiful grace that's been given the church to have a treasure trove of all of the things God desires for his people. But that doesn't mean that in all seasons we're even realizing that part of the treasure trove is with us, or that we're using the parts of the treasure trove we have access to as well as we could be. And because of that, there could be reason to believe that some of our Christian brothers and sisters that are not within the walls of our particular parish or even in the denomination of Catholicism have aspects that they're getting really right. And that is really, really fun. And because I think I have a unique take on this too, because where I grew up, it's kind of the beginning of the Bible Belt. So almost everyone there is Protestant. But I mean to say almost everyone, like almost no one you would find where I'm from would be atheist. They just don't believe, like none of them have a pretentiousness that would suggest they're smarter than what a lot of people believe. And I'm not saying that every person who denies faith like that, but they're all just kind of like, yeah, we believe, but they believe in like a general Protestantism is probably what I would say. There's not a lot of Catholics. And so growing up, it was actually funny because I went to the Catholic school in the area and there was constantly comments like, you guys aren't even Christian, or like there was a lot of things that I just didn't understand. So I had in my mind a real dichotomy between Protestants and Catholics, which in some senses there are, but in other senses they're not. And I had them on like totally different like ends of the I don't even know if spectrum, but just like ends of the belief. I guess spectrum. So I will go back to Cardinal George and say that like when you're interacting with a Protestant brother and sister, or I think you said non-Catholic brother or sister, go with them with the general like charity to say, you might know something I don't about something I should know about. And if we can take that disposition in, like you might know something more about something I should know about. First of all, even if we take that to our non-believing friends that are in the world, I think there's still something where you can find it's the Aquinas principle that at the bottom of every pursuit is the pursuit of God, right? Like exactly. At the bottom of everything is the pursuit of that which is higher. And so long story short, I think that the way to approach non-Catholic brothers and sisters without losing our Catholic identity is to understand that the Catholic Church does have a unique right to have all of the gifts God desires for his people under one. However, it doesn't mean that at certain times we haven't misplaced some of those. So let's approach dialogue with our Protestant brothers and sisters and those in the world with, you might know something more about something I should.
Yeah.
And I think that's
that's awesome. I mean, other people highlight different things. Like if I like even if you just look inside the church, well, Franciscans are going to highlight a part of the gospel in a way that Dominicans aren't, right? And then and Benedictines are going to highlight a part of the gospel that Franciscans aren't. And so different charisms exist amongst different people. So a Protestant brother or sister may be highlighting something that needs to be highlighted for you as an individual. And so that's a good thing. But I even say like Cardinal George's quote is the church has everything and it has all the gifts we need for salvation. But I think even like we can learn from anyone, like, right. And like the church has been learning from others and other cultures since our inception, you know, like I went to Japan this past year and I was kind of blown away when going to some of these Buddhist monasteries and stuff, because it was like, oh wait, they dip their hands in water too to purify their hands before going into the church. Oh wait, they have incense as well. Oh wait, they have votive candles as well. Oh wait, they have prayer intention cards that they leave at the foot of a statue as well. There's certain aspects of timeless expressions of the faith. They like, I don't, were we the first ones ever to use incense? Probably not, you know? And so there's things that we saw other cultures and the church has a history of seeing other cultures or other spiritualities do something and then Christianizing it, right? And so I think there's an element of what can we learn from this situation? And
I have one word for that.
Paul at the Acropolis. Like,
exactly.
It's this like
anathema.
Anathema, yeah.
No, I think, yeah. Well, but that's interesting because like even when we read the Council of Trent, like I think that we do find in the angle of how it's written something that I find in myself sometimes, which is like a hyper reactivity. It's like, oh, but like I need to have solid lines. And I think the church was right to set up lines, but now it's like, but I don't have to fear like entertaining someone who's on a different side of the line than me. I think that's just fundamentally anti-Christian. Like we haven't done that since Jesus Christ was here. Like Jesus went to the woman at the well. Like he wanted those who followed him to go, yes, into Judea, but into Samaria and then to the ends of the earth. Like Jesus never was like, hey, don't dialogue or have conversation with people that are across the line than you out of fear that they might, oh no, that actually connects it to the leper. I think I heard it from one of you first, is like Old Testament, you touch the leper and you get leprosy. I think it might have been you, Aaron. New Testament, you touch the leper, they get clean. Like there's a part of like Jesus changes something where I don't have to just walk around fearful that I'm picking up like this like broken schema that I have to like hide from, right?
That's great.
Yeah.
Let me, I'll throw a little, you labeled me earlier as a contrarian. I'll throw a little contrarian twist on this.
I love it.
As well as maybe a good word rooted in virtue. So I think you actually have to approach this. How should I approach this? With humility. I've got to approach this with humility. And I think an openness to actually changing my mind, right? If you encountered a truth that was truer than the thing that you claim to believe, would you change your mind? Or would you buckle down and say like, no, I'm right? Right? Because I think that is actually the way that most of us tend to operate when it comes to conversation with someone we disagree with, or someone that we're not formed in the same community with, that we just assume like there are certain things that are off limits. And if you start speaking to me something that convicts me, like it's witchcraft, and I'm not going to actually allow my heart to be moved or motivated by a pursuit of truth. So I've got to have a deep enough belief in Jesus that the actual pursuit of truth is going to lead me to him. And therefore, by connection, is going to lead me to the truth of church, the truth of the Catholic Church. But I would say for many people, myself included, and I'll give a brief little testimony to this, we have set up for ourselves golden calves and claimed that they are Catholicism, and they're not. And our unwillingness to change, or our unwillingness to be open to different perspective, actually puts us in a box that's not good.
Yeah.
What's an example of that?
Yeah. So I've shared this on the show, I think, before, but when I was in high school, like my sole motivation in pursuit of the faith was through apologetics. I thought like this was the way to transform the world. If we were going to have any meaningful impact as a
we have
ministry,
to have better arguments than everyone else.
It had to be through apologetics. And how'd
that work out for you?
Well, it was
incomplete.
If you know me now,
it was incomplete.
And I love apologetics. It's great.
Same.
There's a time and a place. And I found myself in an experience where, I don't know, 8-10 years of that as my primary motivation. I was just left empty, and I was doing the youth ministry thing, and it wasn't fulfilling. It wasn't fulfilling my heart. And I don't know whether God placed it there, or whether it was just a rut that I had found myself in. But the escape for me, right? The way that God came and shook me out of that idol that I think I had set up for myself, and brought me to a place of real meaningful encounter with him and the church, was through actually humbling myself and putting myself in a place to be formed meaningfully by people who are outside of the church. So a close friend of mine, Megan Baum, and I started really listening to and being fed by some of the teachings down Louis Giglio down in Passion Church in Atlanta, Georgia. And again, do I wholeheartedly agree with every theological point the guy communicates? Absolutely not. But it was actually putting myself in a place of realizing like that I can be fed and formed by people that are different than me.
Yeah.
That I think changed everything.
I think going back to like your first point, Aaron, is that the pursuit of truth will always lead to truth, right? Like if I'm pursuing truth, it's going to end in God. And that's
the
really
spirit of truth will lead you to all truth.
Yeah. And that's been the Catholic understanding forever, right? That we're not against science. We're not against biology. We're not against philosophies, right? That the pursuit of truth is going to end in God if it's an authentic pursuit. And so if I'm going to my non-Catholic brothers and sisters pursuing truth, right? Then, and I'm going to, it's going to bring me into a deeper relationship with God, who is truth.
And it's possible that the Protestant preacher down the street or on television may actually have a more truthful interpretation of the scripture than my theology teacher, right? I think we have to be open,
because
that's a scary path to walk.
But my theology teacher wasn't perfect, right? And what you were saying, Brad, we may have the fullness of truth. That doesn't mean the truth was communicated perfectly to us in our high school religion class.
Yeah, no, that's right. Well, I think the humility point is so big because like, I'm not going to speak for you, Aaron, but I had a very similar, like in my early stages of conversion, like I'm going to get the arguments right, you know? And there was just a pride in that because like the reality is at that time, instead of pursuing truth, I wanted to pursue being right. Like that's just how it is. And how many dialogues do we have in our life where we just want to be right? Like, it's not even like, that's why I love the way you framed it, Aaron. Like, let's say that you and I are having a discussion and Aaron actually has a path towards what seems logically coherent and true that is different than my predisposition? Am I willing to change? That is literally the frame of if it's an honest dialogue or not.
Yeah.
If that's not there, then all it is competing monologues to see who can like out-duel and win. And that's not the right aim.
One of my favorite phrases that captures this in the context of Catholicism and even canon law is that we must not prevent what the church herself permits.
Yeah.
So for me to you hear this especially in the context of conflict between the quote unquote liturgy wars, conflict between the self-labeled progressives or conservatives and charismatics or progressive, whatever the case may be. Like that we've sort of established a label that something is or isn't Catholic, and we just got to be sure that we're actually standing on reality.
Yeah.
Am I trying to codify my preference, or is this actually a critical, quote unquote salvation issue? And more often than not, preference doesn't make it all the way there.
Well, and ecumenism is realized, like the church permits ecumenism and encourages ecumenism, and it is promoted through dialogue. And so it's in order for dialogue to happen, I have to listen to others so that they'll listen to me. And I think that I know that as a Catholic, when I associate with and put myself in a learning position or an inquisitive position around my Protestant brothers and sisters, they're much more likely to put themselves in an inquisitive learning position to me.
That's great.
So that my own curiosity of what they believe, why they believe it, how they evangelize, what strategies they're using to reach the lost, that inquisitive nature creates them to ask me, and what are you guys doing? And how are you reaching the lost? And then I can share aspects of Eucharistic adoration that is a very tangible expression, an incarnational encounter with God that is it facilitates an encounter with God in such a powerful way, right? This opens a door for real discussion of these important truths.
Yeah, well, I think there's a brilliant concept that's spoken about by many theologians that are working towards unity. Well,
I'm just kidding.
Sorry, yeah, you're like call me on my receipts. Here you go. But no,
please.
Expedite the process. But I think this concept between unity and uniformity, there's the pursuit of the church is that we would be in unity, but that's not always going to look uniform. Even look at the church in Africa and how they're celebrating the mysteries of the Mass, and look at any Western country and how they celebrate the mystery. It is just not uniform, but there's unity in it. So you can see the elements of it, the truth, what the germ prescribes and things like that, but it takes on these flavors. And that's actually beautiful. That's actually we shouldn't demand conformity where the church allows for diversity of expression. That's a problem. And it is and I think it really is a heart problem. I've been kind of recognizing in my life, I have a real desire to bring two extremes towards the middle in almost all circumstances. So I usually, if someone comes in very passionate on a wing of something, I just come in on the other wing because my passion is towards the middle, actually. And one of the areas, I was reading recently Sacrosanctum Concilium, and
just in your spare time.
Can you say that 3 times fast?
Sacrosanctum Concilium, Sacrosanctum Concilium, Sacrosanctum Concilium. But it's this beautiful document that comes out of Vatican II, but it's in the exact same document where we see hey, maybe we could have a pride of place for Gregorian chant, and versus populum is a more than appropriate posture to take in the Mass, which just means to the people. In the same document, in usually two sides will either say both, those couldn't you can't have both of them. It's no.
If you're angry at Brad, can you just please leave comments?
Comment for days. But no, I was Brad, blown away. I didn't know.
Noteworthy, the preference for Gregorian chant is in the Latin Mass.
Oh, interesting.
I would love to read that more. That's really good. But you can see the wait, before you shoot that, you can see kind of one. Anyway, that document is giving this diversity of expression.
No, I love it.
And we're anyway.
No, it's
we
a brilliant
bunker
concept.
down in our camp and say every document says what I say. It's really? Because I'm not sure that's true.
I agree. Got one. All right, guys. 2 cents.
That was so close. That was a really great shot.
Thanks. All right. Hey,
I just punched the microphone. I don't know if that messed up anything.
Essentially, the question was, how do I look to my non-Catholic brothers and sisters and make sure I don't mess up? Is that really kind of what they're saying?
Well, and not lose your Catholicism, I think, was the general sentiment.
I think so. I do think there is a level of discretion. So I have no concern listening to a ton of Protestant preachers on YouTube because I have a master's degree in theology. And so I think there are certain certain red flags that stick out to me. Like, whoa, that is a Calvinistic style anthropology.
It's part of the
and
tulip.
you can just feel it right away. So I do think there are people who don't have theology degrees that probably should be a little bit more discerning. And so I think it would be very effective if you know your sidelines, right? So like kind of in football, I can play on the whole field, but I can't I don't want to go out of bounds. And I think that's where like when interfaith dialogue or interfaith learning, know your sidelines so you know like, okay, this is when I go out of bounds, right? And so if you're unclear, then ask someone who has clarity in the Catholic faith for an understanding, right? So like, is it okay if I go to a Protestant service to learn how Protestants are evangelizing? Is that okay? And maybe you don't know. Yes, of course, it's okay to go to a Protestant service, right? And learn how they're evangelizing as long as you go to Mass on Sunday as well, right? And so like, I think, but if you don't know that that's an appropriate thing to do, you may feel like you can't do it, or you may. So like, if you have questions, just ask a higher theological source above you. And then if you are meant to be the higher theological source, right? If you're a leader of an apostolate, then make sure you have a higher theological source, right? And that's where to some extent the tradition of a spiritual director is important, because if theologians or ministers are going to be trying to do the new evangelization and ardently striving for new methodology, new expressions, right? As John Paul II calls for in the new evangelization, then you need to have a spiritual director that you're able to throw some of these things to be able to say like, hey, actually that expression, that's a violation of like, and so being able to walk with a spiritual director if you're a ministry leader, and then have a ministry leader that you can turn to if you're not like in full-time ministry, or have, so that you remain in obedience in some way, and you remain, if you will, in the safety of the theological tradition of the church, and so that you understand you have another person. And then I would even say almost checks and balances, right? Like in a way of like, throw your questions out to your brothers and sisters in the faith. And so like, I mean, the amount, most of our bantering of real theological questions or real theological discussions happens off air, but the three of us are always throwing out different ideas and thoughts. I saw this, what do you think? Or I thought that, like, I heard this, I read this, and we're wrestling with these truths. And that is Catholic theology, right? Like asking these questions,
it's incarnation.
Wrestling with these truths, discussing them. That's where theology happens. And so it isn't just, and I think sometimes our current expression of teaching theology confuses us, because it's like, well, this textbook says this and it's all infallible, and I have to believe everything the textbook says as the textbook says it. And it doesn't allow for discourse of theological thought and growth. And so I think there's a lot of value that can happen from understanding our sidelines, but then playing within the playing field. And I think just a few examples of this I've seen is I think we do a good job of encouraging our missionaries to kind of go out and listen to, hey, you should listen to this podcast, you should listen to this this preacher, and we learn from different faith leaders in different denominations. But then we also, before we send them out, we give them our house rules, right? And so Damascus has house rules. So you have heard it said, but I say to you, right? And that's what Jesus does in the Sermon on the Mount. You've heard it said, but I say to you. He's kind of course correcting the different theological debates that are happening between the Sadducees, the Pharisees, and he's answering some of those. And I think we can do that. We know some of the charismatic theological conversations that are out there on an interfaith level. And so that's exactly what we're saying. Like, hey, you've heard it said this, but I say to you, we're going to do it this way, right? That there's actually instruction on these are our sidelines here at Damascus. And the other theologians are saying this outside the faith when it comes to the supernatural gifts. But no, we see the expression here in Catholicism.
That's such a great response.
And then when people go out of bounds, our missionaries, sometimes they go out of bounds. Like I think sometimes our Protestant brothers and sisters, one area where I've noticed a lot of charismatic Protestants falling prey is that they go into kind of a faith alone type mentality of like, if I have enough faith, God will do it. And they almost act, they suppress reason, right? Yeah, sure. So sometimes I'll see our missionaries pick that up, and I'm like, hey, I actually want you to read John Paul II's Fides et Ratio, Faith and Reason.
It's not sola fide. It's
that we do want to have great faith for God to work, but we also have to understand that God does work through reason as well.
Of course. Well, and faith is on the far side of reason, if properly understood, right? That we reason to a point, and then faith is not some like absence of reason. It's you reason to where you can as a person on a thing, and then the faith is on the far side of it.
And all of this takes more work, and all of it
bears better fruit.
It bears better fruit,
but
it also
and that's
means
should be the goal.
Sometimes people will go out of bounds.
Yeah.
Yes. And going out of bounds is not like it may be a penalty, but the game isn't over because of that, right? And the person doesn't burn in hell because of that.
Yes,
so
that's
like,
the perfect analogy.
if I step out of bounds, that's okay, because guess what? I can step right back in bounds.
Well, especially with people that you know you're having conversations with in good faith. Like, I think all three of us have grown in that with each other over years, is like, now when I do have something that I'm wrestling with, like in my own, like, I know I'm like, I can bring this up to Dan and Aaron, and even if it's really wrong, like they're gonna wrestle with it and let me object back to them. But that grows in trust. I think there's a huge element to this as I'm listening to both of you. Like, also find people in your life that are Catholic and going after this thing, because those can be the people that like the officials, the referees, that remind you of the rules of the game. Like, these are the sidelines. You can't go outside and then run back in and catch or whatever. Like that's helped me immensely, because like, gosh, if we're not taking risks, how are we even trying to touch the whole field? Because I'm trying to touch the whole field. Like, there's people at every element of the field. And like, if I'm afraid of the sideline, I'm just going to stay with the people in the middle of the field. And I don't want to be afraid of the sideline.
And I think the new evangelization is so important in this, because like, it is new in expressions, methodology, and ardor. And I think a lot of times when we
John
go to
Paul II, right?
That was what we said, that we need a new evangelization that is new in its expressions, methodology, and ardor. And if a lot of times when we go to our Protestant brothers and sisters, we're not looking for their theological doctrine. What we're looking for is their expression of evangelization. We're looking for their ardor in evangelization. We're looking for their methodology to reach the lost. And that's really when that's when we're going to get the most value from our Protestant brothers and sisters, is when we see, wow, what are they doing well to reach the human heart and lead that human heart into relationship with God?
A comment was made earlier that when we adopt a posture of humility, it actually fosters a posture of humility in others as well. And I would say one of the really cool things, Dan, I think you illustrated that perfectly, that oftentimes our Protestant brothers and sisters are succeeding more in terms of methodology and ardor and expression. And oftentimes when we approach them in humility, that a response of humility actually positions them to look to Catholicism for development of theological thought.
Yep.
So we've run into this time and time again that you'll show up to the bookstore of some amazing non-denominational church, and who's on the shelves but the Catholic mystics?
Yeah, for sure.
Because there's a realization that, hey, if this truth is worth pursuing, then we've got to find it wherever it's offered.
Yep.
And that just opens up an incredible dialogue.
Yeah, and I found that to be true anecdotally, because it also opens up a relationship where you're not giving unsolicited advice, but you're giving advice when it's solicited.
Yeah.
So I've had Protestant brothers and sisters that'll ask a question in honest, like seeking, and it'll be like, oh, I know the church knows that. And so then I get to answer, instead of like coming in with like a preconceived agenda as to what I'm going to deliver to them in relationship with them, they'll ask questions like, how should we understand this scripture? And I'm like, oh, I don't need to know that. Origen knew that. Like, I don't need to know that. John Chrysostom knew that. Like, I don't need to know that. Aquinas knew that.
Yep.
And that is a real beauty. So like, I before we kind of move, I think, towards mission of the week, like if you're listening, like that's the beauty. Like none of what we're saying is escaping from the beauty that we have these resources at our fingertips. It's just, we need to live those resources out in relationship. If ministry is not incarnational and it's simply logical, then we're not even like human. Like it has to be lived out in a way that, I think you said that perfectly, Aaron. Like it comes into the circumstance that we're in humility, and then does what it can with it.
You know, it would be very interesting to kind of give yourself a litmus test as to what would be appropriate for you as a Catholic to involve yourself in Protestant dialogue. To what extent do you want the Protestant to involve themselves in your Catholic dialogue? So if we're going to love our neighbor as ourselves, then if I want the Protestant to come and learn about Marian devotion, if I want the Protestant to come and learn about the Eucharist,
Sacrament.
if I want the Protestant to come and learn about sacraments, if I want them to come in and see and learn and listen to me, then I should be willing to do the same to them. And I like to simply, if whatever, to what extent you want them to come to you, you should go to them, or you should have permission to go to them.
I love that. Right before I'll throw it over to you, I was listening to a podcast by Dr. Bergsma today, actually. And if you've never listened to Dr. Bergsma,
brilliant.
Well,
theologian.
But the thing is, his intellect though has not allowed a shell to like grow around his heart. Like, he's so smart, but he's so in like love. I love him. Yes, and with the people he's teaching, with the people he's talking to, with the people he's arguing with, like he is like just I think he's a case study for charity. Like I think he's
great,
amazing.
Brad. You gave him such a good promotion. Now everyone's going to listen to his podcast
and not ours.
No viewers. No, I'm just kidding.
But it's building off what you were saying, because one of the things he was mentioning is just like we as Catholics don't have to be afraid of losing our Catholicism when we truly understand. Like when we truly understand it, it's like all these things are oriented towards it. I just want to get on the path that sees the beautiful fulfillment of all of the things for it. He was just talking about like he went into this class that he knew had an atheistic tilt, and he knew it was going to be the best arguments for atheism. And part of him was scared to go into the class because he's like, what if I'm proven wrong? And then as he got in the class, he's like, oh no, like I'm just seeing all the things that I believe. Like It's just like building, like if we really understand it, we can be more whole. Because it's all been grace that's been given to us.
I kind of want to go do a class on atheism now. That sounds like fun.
Well, I mean, like, you should listen to it. I think Matt Frad interviewed him, but cool. Let's start to mission of the week. You want to do it?
Mission of the week. Oh man. Okay. You put me on the spot.
I did. Yeah. Very quick. Bergsma shift. And then.
Yeah, no, I think if mission of the week, it would be really good for you to, I don't know if writing is what you do, but if you want to journal kind of what do you love the most about the Catholic faith? So why do you love your Catholic faith, and root yourself in that firm faith that this is why I love you, Catholic Church, and why I'm not going to leave. And as long as you know your personal why of what roots you in your faith, then you can go and play ball on the field and not be worried that you're going to lose your faith. So root yourself deeply in the church with a heart and a love for her. And if that love's there, I don't think you have to be worried that you're going to lose your Catholic faith.
That's the best. Friends, this has been Beyond Damascus, a show where encounter meets mission. Let's be in relationship. So if you are listening to this podcast and you think that it would benefit someone in your life, send it to them. If that starts a dialogue, great. Drop those comments into the comment section. Email us at beyond@damascus.net. Like, let's get a conversation going around these topics so we can be in relationship and bring mission to the world. Because this isn't supposed to be a show that just talks about mission, but a show that's on mission, and we want to be on mission with you. If you haven't already, like this video, subscribe to this channel. It helps it go further. It helps it reach more people. It helps more people be on mission for the Lord, and that's what we all want. Anyway, and then let me remind you, as always, that mission makes sense.
Friends, thanks for listening to Beyond Damascus, the show where encounter meets mission. You can listen to the whole version of today's show by searching for Beyond Damascus on YouTube or your favorite podcast app.